Kia ora. Hello and welcome to CookieCast, the podcast that's all about the Cook Islands. This is the place to meet people who have their own insight into this Polynesian paradise in the South Pacific. I'm John Roberts, and in this episode my guest is one of the world's best-selling authors, Sir Ian Rankin. He writes in the main about the Scottish detective John Rebus, a character he himself describes as the ultimate maverick cop who prefers old-school graft to newfangled modern-day policing methods. There are 25 books about him so far, the latest, Midnight and Blue, just published. And Rebus has made Ian one of the world's most popular crime fiction writers. Knighted by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, countless awards, more than 28 million books sold, translated into something like 36 languages, and a first-time visitor to the Cook Islands. Kia ora, Ian. Welcome.
Kia ora.
When you're not busy writing, you must do lots of interviews, public appearances and the like, but I'm guessing this is the first time you've been asked to talk about your holidays.
Well, definitely the first time that I've been asked to talk about the Cook Islands, yeah.
Rarotonga in the Cook Islands couldn't be more different from Edinburgh in Scotland, which you, and indeed Rebus, know so well. But I think it was your wife Miranda that persuaded you to holiday there. How come?
Yeah, Miranda had been to the Cook Islands, I think, twice before. She'd gone with one of our neighbours here in Edinburgh, a woman called Laura. Laura, when she was young, spent quite a bit of time on Rarotonga. I think I don't know if it was her uncle, certainly some member of her family was the medical officer there. And in fact, when we were there, I did ask a couple of people if they remembered him, and they said that they did. And a few people even remembered Laura because she spent a short time teaching in the school there. So anyway, Miranda had been there a couple of times on painting holidays with Laura and a group of other like-minded women. We were taking a cruise ship to New Zealand, and she persuaded me that we could add on an extra little week. And during that week, we could fly out to the Cook Islands, which we duly did.
Can you remember your first impressions?
Well, the first impression was the bizarre one of crossing the international date line. It's such an odd thing when you either gain or lose a day that way, and you have to kind of readjust. Yeah, and of course we touched down, and the Rarotonga, the airport is very small, not much in the way of facilities, but it's beautiful. Immediately you've got palm trees, you can feel the heat. It was a good few degrees warmer than in New Zealand that we had left. And it was just, immediately, because Miranda had been there before, I felt that I could rely on her to find our way around the place. And it had everything I wanted in a way, because the pace of life is much slower. I mean, it's much slower even than New Zealand. We were down in Napier in New Zealand, we're going to a lot of wineries and driving around. But it was just a lovely, relaxed pace of life, and it was pretty much what I needed, having just sort of got to grips with the second draft of my book Midnight and Blue, which was published here a few weeks ago. That's what I was doing on the cruise, was working on the second draft of that book.
And suddenly you're in a different world, in a sense, a world away from that of Rebus.
As long as you could get a beer, and thank goodness there was the Rarotonga brewery. As long as you can get a cold beer and a fish sandwich, I was very, very happy. And also I get lost. Notoriously, I can get lost very easily. But when there's only a circuit of the island and the bus either goes clockwise or anti-clockwise, it's very difficult to get lost. So it suited me down to the ground. I was never panicking that I was going to get so lost that I couldn't find my way back to the hotel, for example.
So there you are in the Cook Islands, Ian. Beautiful beaches, lagoons to swim in, even a mountain to climb if you feel so inclined. How did you spend your time?
We did a lot of kind of snorkeling. Our hotel was right on the beach, so we could just walk across the beach and into the water and swim and snorkel. We took a day trip to Atutaki. We went into town and explored the town. In fact, we were on a bus going through town one day, and Miranda said, "I could swear I saw your name on a billboard, chalked up on a kind of blackboard." I said, "You must be joking." Well, the next time we passed on the bus, sure enough, my name was up on a blackboard outside the museum and library. And it said, Kia ora, Ian Rankin, open brackets, author, close brackets. word had got around, and apparently I'd been spotted in the bookshop, the Bounty bookshop. I'd been noticed, and the person who worked there, one of her relatives, works in the museum library. So they had chalked up this sign. So of course I had to wander into the library. And when I was there, they said, "Oh, are you in a hurry?" I said, "No, of course I'm not in a hurry." They said, "Well, just stay here, and we'll get the Cook Island News to see if they want to come and interview you." So lo and behold, suddenly I'm in the Cook Island News, having taken a holiday on the Cook Islands. It was just, I mean, it was that kind of place where everywhere you went, everybody was friendly. Everybody seemed to know each other. It just seemed to be an incredibly relaxed environment. And it reminded me a little bit, in a strange way, of where I grew up, because where I grew up was a mining village in Fife, in Scotland, north of Edinburgh, a village of a few hundred people. But everybody knew everybody else. Everybody was related to everybody else. You know, you never bothered locking your door. It was a hard place to have secrets, because everybody did know everybody else's business. But it was a kind of very protective place. It was very clannish and protected, and I definitely felt some of that when I was on Rarotonga.
You mentioned there your day trip to Aitutaki. Let's talk about that for a few minutes. I always describe Aitutaki as reminiscent of the sort of picture a child would paint of a desert island, and life there moves at the sort of pace the rest of the world has forgotten. What were your impressions?
Well, I mean, we landed by plane, and then we were whisked onto a little open-sided bus that took us to the water where our boat was waiting, and a bunch of us, about a dozen of us, who had come on this trip, this organised package trip. We all went off on the boat, and we were going to have lunch there and cold drinks there. We are going to visit 2 or 3 little islands, 1 Foot Island, etc., etc. We were going to do some great snorkeling, surrounded by amazing fish. It was hot. It was very. I mean, you know, I'm Scottish. I'm from the northern hemisphere. We're not used to that kind of intense heat. This was in early March, and I think Miranda had figured that early March I might be able to cope. I did go out one day and try to jog. I try to go out running every day, wherever I happen to be in the world, and I gave up after 25 minutes because the humidity was really not good for me. But no, Atataki was beautiful. Bought a t-shirt, went snorkeling, had some lovely cold drinks, took some wonderful photographs. And yeah, I mean, it seemed to me there wasn't a huge amount there, which was great. It was perfect for me. And I quite like the notion that the Cook Islands have not allowed themselves to become over touristy. So there's no big hotels anywhere, no big resorts anywhere. And I like that. It makes you feel a little bit special. And you've had to work fairly hard to get there. So when you get there, you do want to feel that you're not surrounded by thousands of people just like you. And I definitely got that sense. I really enjoyed it. And the food was terrific. Everywhere we went, the seafood was spectacular.
I'm going to ask you about the food in a minute, but I was just wondering, did you manage to visit the post office on One Foot Island?
I think it wasn't open. We got told about it, and you could get your passport stamped. But in fact, they stamped our passports on the boat because I think the post office was not doing any business that day, or I don't know. I don't know what the reason was. But we did visit the island and where they filmed. What was it? The TV show they filmed?
That was Survivor Cook
Survivor,
Islands,
yeah.
which was an American series.
Yeah. We visited that island and sort of walked across it. It took us 5 minutes to walk across it from one side to the other. I mean, it was terrific. It was a beautiful day out, and a long day out, but I wouldn't have missed it for the world. The bluest water. I mean, the lagoon and everything. The water was the white beaches and the blue water. I mean, everywhere you went was like an advert for paradise.
It's interesting you say that, you know, the unspoiled nature of the islands. I wonder if you know, there's a law that was passed in 1965 that said no building in the islands can be higher than the tallest palm tree.
I think that's great. I think that's great. And I think the fact that a lot of families who own the land keep control of the land, I think is also terrific because, you know, a lot of places do become over touristified, and they lose some of their individuality, they lose some of their character. And they start to look like everywhere else. And the thing about the Cook Islands and Rarotonga and Aitutaki, etc., they don't look like anywhere else.
If you ever end up relaxing on the beach or by a pool, I have to ask, what do you end up reading?
I don't remember exactly what I was reading while I was there, but it would have been crime fiction. Mostly that's what I read. I would have taken a few books with me. I believe there were some books that had been left behind by visitors to our hotel, so I picked up a couple of books there after finishing my books. We did a little swap. I mean, I did go into the Bounty bookshop. I can't remember if I bought anything or not. I mean, I definitely got maps and photographic books, historical books about the Cook Islands, and just found it all absolutely fascinating. And then I thought, well, I can't do anything with this because my character wouldn't come here. My guy Rebus does not travel. He does not own a passport, and he doesn't cope well with anything over 15 degrees temperature.
So we're not going to see him there in a future book.
Sadly not. I don't. I can't see Rebus going to a place as beautiful and hot and as far from the kind of darkness and the shadiness of Edinburgh. No, he's an Edinburgh lad, I'm afraid.
You talked about the food. I think that's, in my opinion, I think that's one of the most memorable things about the island. It's wonderfully fresh food. You described it as fantastic. I wonder if you came across any local specialities. Did you hear anything or taste anything like ikimata or banana
Yeah, yeah.
poke?
I mean, Ikimata was on most menus most days, and we ate a lot of it. There was a really nice kind of sashimi that they did in our resort. We were staying at a place called the Little Polynesian Resort, and I basically it's like a sashimi dish, and I had it pretty much every day. It was tuna, I think. Had it every single day that I was there because it was just so good. And of course, the famous fish sandwiches everywhere you go, Trader Jack's or Charlie's. We tried the fish sandwiches at both. Yeah, I mean, it was we had a blast, and I never got fed up with the food. We did go to one of the island feasts, and I'm going to forget which one we went to. One of these evening things where people sing and dance and tell you the story of the island's traditions, and in between times you get fed lovely food, and that was fun.
Did you join in with any of the dancing?
Sadly, I did, and I didn't think I would, but of course they drag you up. They drag you up towards the end when you've had a few beers, and sadly, moreover, Miranda managed to get a photograph of me, although it's a blurry photograph from behind and the side. But I know it's me. I know it's me dancing, and that's first time in a long time that you would have caught me dancing.
So we're not going to see that photograph
You're not going to see it
on
anywhere.
any or your no, we're not going to see it anywhere. I was going
No,
to say
no,
we're not
it's
going to see
going,
it
it's
on any
going,
of your books.
it's going to go in my grave with me. I'll tell you.
But a lasting memory nonetheless. Looking back now, are there others?
Almost the first morning we were just walking along the beach hand in hand. In our 60s, haven't been married for Lord, over 30 years. We're walking along, relaxed, and there's this gigantic, I mean, to me, gigantic bright blue starfish that's sitting in the water, just at the edge of the water. And it was just the most extraordinary thing to sort of stumble across. And I'd never seen anything like it before. And I just thought this is going to be a special week. We were only there for 1 week. I just thought this is going to be a very special week. And then, of course, we ended that evening with one of the amazing sunsets. And always with the reef, always with the kind of the waves coming over the reef. That kind of that quite what's it? How can you describe it? It's not monotonous. It's this regular, almost like a heartbeat of the island that you can regularly hear if you attune your ears to it, and you never can't hear it. In our room at night when we were going to sleep, you could still hear it. It was like it was rocking you gently to sleep. The other place I must mention in Dispatches, because they told me when I was in the museum and the library, they said, "Oh, we've got a cafe here that specializes in vinyl records. You're a music fan, aren't you?" I went, "Yeah, I am." So I went headed across the road to the Pearl Market, and there's a place there called the Cafe, and they have record players and they have lots of records, and you can just play a record while you're drinking your coffee. I just thought I mean, that's as close to heaven as I'm going to get as a fan of records, and I think sneakily again, I think they knew I was coming because a lot of the records they had out on display were Scottish bands.
Ian, back in 2006, you were a guest on a long-running British radio program called Desert Island Discs, talking about your life. For those not familiar with it, guests are asked to imagine they've been cast away on a desert island and choose 8 recordings, a book, and a luxury item to take with them. Now, there are 2 deserted islands in the Cook Islands, so if you find yourself on one of those, how do you think you'd cope?
Oh, I don't think I would cope well. I'm a townie, really. I want all the accoutrements of an urban existence. Put me in the wilderness, and I would get I don't know. I would either get bored very quickly. I would die of malnutrition because I couldn't work. I wouldn't be able to work out how to fish and catch anything and eat anything or cook anything. Or else I would sit there and my head would go into a very creative space. Because I find when you've got solitude and you're getting a little bit bored or you've got nothing else to do, that's when the imagination gets active, and it fills you with ideas and stories and plots. So maybe I'd come up with some great. If I was only there for a few days or a week or two, I might manage to come home with a novel, which would be pretty good.
Stephen King said in his autobiography that writers never really switch off, consciously or subconsciously. They're always gathering material that might come in handy for a future book. And you've described yourself and other novelists as quite voyeuristic.
Hmm.
Is there anything from your visit to the Cook Islands that you've stored up for future use?
Yeah, I mean, if I was writing a story that, and I wanted a sort of exotic setting somewhere far away from Edinburgh, then I've got the Cook Islands in my back pocket, just ready for me. I mean, we went to some beautiful spots. So the Botanic Gardens I thought were absolutely fantastic. And there was a musician playing while we wandered through the Botanic Gardens. That was just by chance. We didn't know there was going to be a musician playing. I thought the cathedral, St. Joseph's Cathedral, was beautiful. Lots of light coming in through the stained glass, but also traditional wood carvings everywhere. So plenty of interesting locations for certain stories. And I do like a story my wife told me, and it's a true story. First time she went to Rarotonga, they wanted to rent mopeds, but you couldn't do that unless you passed your driving test or had a driving license. So they sat the Cook Islands driving test, which she said took about half an hour. And you paid something like 10 or 20 quid, I forget how much it was, and you got a photographic ID, basically. You got a Cook Islands driving license. And she used that driving license for years. Whenever she needed photographic ID anywhere in the world, she would pull out her Cook Islands driving license. So I quite like that, just that thing, that image of somebody pulling out a Cook Islands driving license to prove who they are.
I used mine for identification in LA.
There you go.
I just thought it was really cool to have this Cook Islands driving license. I'm sure they haven't got a clue where the Cook Islands were. So you said, we're unlikely ever to see Rebus in the Cook Islands. Does that mean that perhaps you would be writing a different style of book? What genre might it be?
Well, I did joke with the editor of the Cook Islands News that if I was going to set a book in the Cook Islands, it would have to be a romance because it lends itself to that, doesn't it? It just lends itself to a romantic view of the world and people who suddenly make big changes in their life. I can imagine people going there and it's suddenly dawning on them that their life has not been going in a direction that they would have liked, and they need to make some radical changes. So it's a sort of place where you can imagine people changing, turning their lives around, and possibly meeting someone, and falling in love. Whether I could write that kind of story, John, I'm not so sure. But I'm putting that out there. Anybody listening to this broadcast, any writers, any wannabe writers, I'm just putting it out there that the Cook Islands, Rarotonga, good place to set a romantic story.
You said it was your wife Miranda that persuaded you to visit the islands in the first place, and she'd like to go back. Would you like another visit?
Oh yeah, if Miranda was going back to the Cook Islands, there's no way she'd be going there without me tagging along. In fact, we're going to be in New Zealand in May, but it's for a book tour. It's a book tour of Australia and New Zealand. And I don't think we've just not got the time to squeeze in a visit to the Cook Islands. So we'll have to do it another time. The thing is, if you're coming from Europe to somewhere like the Cook Islands, you're going to arrive with jet lag galore. We didn't this time because what we did was we took a ship from San Francisco to Auckland, New Zealand. Took 20 odd days. But it meant we arrived in Auckland with no jet lag. So when we boarded the plane for the flight to the Cook Islands, when we got to the Cook Islands, we felt fine. So top tip there, if you're thinking you're going to the Cook Islands, try and get there by ship. And you won't have the kind of, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me getting old, but I do find jet lag gets worse the older I get. And I'm not looking forward to Australia, New Zealand in May because it is a book tour. So the minute I hit the ground, I'm off doing interviews, I'm off doing events, and I don't get a chance to catch my breath. So that'll be a very different trip. And sadly, I don't think May 2025 is going to have time for the Cook Islands. It'll have to be the year after, I think.
Well, something to hold in reserve the year after, perhaps. You clearly had a fantastic time there. You've taken away lots of memories that I think are going to last a lifetime for you. But is there anything in particular that made the island special for you?
No, it was just a constant sense of discovery. It was walking around a corner and seeing something interesting and going to take a look, or it was sitting on a bus surrounded by, islanders on their way to work or on their way from work, and just overhearing snatches of conversation and just looking out through the window and watching the passing scenery. I did not climb up a mountain. I didn't go inland at all. I just stuck to pretty much to the circumference of the island. So there's plenty more for me to explore when I next go back. But yeah, yeah, the friendliness, the relaxation, the gorgeous sunsets, the palm trees, the great seafood, the cold beer. It's a whole package that I've taken away from it. And
Sounds like the beer made quite an impression on you.
well, you know what? Wherever I go in the world, I try and drink the local beer. And I didn't think there'd be a brewery on Rarotonga. I thought possibly too small to have a brewery. So I was over the moon when I found out it wasn't just going to be imported New Zealand lager or something, or Coors or something, that I was actually going to get proper locally made beer. So that was a thrill to me. And especially if you're having some seafood and on a hot day, a cold beer just washes it down. One thing I didn't do was I always meant to go to Charlie's and play darts because they have dartboards there. And I hadn't played darts in a long time. And I thought, what an amazing place to play darts. You're facing dartboard, you turn around and you're looking out at the ocean. But I never quite got around to it.
I'm glad to hear you did get round to Trader Jack's, though. It's something of an institution, though sadly Jack Cooper, who created the place, died in 2022. I just wondered what you made of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's a bit rough and it feels a bit rough and ready when you first arrive. Lots of just stripped wood, wobbly stools, lots of drinks, food coming and going. It's open to the elements. So you pretty much want to go when the sun is shining, not when there's a little shower going on. But it's set up for that, of course. But, I don't know, it just feels like one of those places where if you sit there for long enough, you're going to meet everybody on Rarotonga because everybody's passing by, looking in to see who's there, coming in, meeting friends. Yeah, and it was a really well-run bar restaurant. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. I never did go at night. We were always pretty much in Scotstoun or hotel by evening, so I only ever saw it in the afternoons, and possibly it's got a different vibe in the evening. But yeah, I'd liked it a lot.
Now, no spoilers, please, Ian, but, Midnight and Blue is your latest book, just published, and it finds Rebus behind prison bars. You said he's not likely to end up in the Cook Islands, so where next for him? Is there more Rebus in the pipeline?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm the laziest, hard-working writer I know. When I finish a book, I take some time off. I don't have loads of ideas in my head for what I want to do next. I take a break, think about what I might want to do. Might it involve Rebus? I don't know. I mean, the novel's just come out, and it's done really well and had great reviews. I've also got a stage play that's touring the UK at the moment, again with Rebus as the central character, and again, people are loving that. One avenue that is possible to me is to go back in time and write about the Rebus of the 1980s and 90s, when policing was very different from the policing of today. So, I mean, who knows? There's a TV show just now. They've rebooted Rebus for television in the UK, and they've made him younger. So in the TV reboot, he's 40, although he is operating in the present day. So there's a possibility for that kind of Rebus to exist as well. But I honestly, John, I never know. I mean, if the good Lord spares me, there may be another book. Potentially, we've not seen the last of them.
Ian, it's been a joy to listen to you sharing your Cook Islands. I hope all your travels are safe and as enjoyable as those in Rarotonga and Aitutaki. And as they say in the Cook Islands, Mitaki Mata. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. As we say in Scotland, cheers.